My name is Ken Roy, and this is my exceptional story. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, Crown Heights, Brooklyn. I learned later on that my junior high school, PS 390, was one of the three baddest high schools in Brooklyn during that time period. And I say that because the eighth grade, I was falsely accused of doing some stuff and actually got arrested. Had to go to court and all this other, good stuff. Before that, my friends and I were very street savvy. By the end of eighth grade, a lot of my friends became drug dealers. And one of my really close friends from the seventh grade, when I got to college, I looked at America's Most Wanted, and his picture was there. Kind of broke down in tears. There was a very heavy street element that could have definitely taken my life, but for whatever reason, I kept moving around because at home, I come from a single parent household of immigrants. I'm originally from the Caribbean island of St. Vincent, came here in 92. And due to my mom passed away when I was 5. So think of a very manly Caribbean father. So my dad did remarry, but after moving here, we, within a couple months, we were told that we had to exit. So from there, my siblings, which would be 4 of us, and my father, we moved around, all over Brooklyn, lived in some places that, more or less, that you don't want to, put the children. Going from place to place, my dad, oftentimes, he left us alone because he would, him and my stepmother at the time, though that role was never played, at least not in, for me and my siblings. He would leave us alone for days, oftentimes weeks. He would pop up, once in a blue and, stick his head in, oftentimes came after drinking booze, drunk, and he would tell us the most, basically things you should never tell a child. I know that affected my siblings, but I remember just looking at my dad, I've always had this strong sense of self, and I refused to believe it. I kind of looked at him and I'm just like, I'm gonna show you. Today, when I reflect, there's nothing that tells me that my father was not, there had to be some mental issues there. Because some of the things that he did to myself and my siblings, the way he just neglected that responsibility, part of it I would say was not his fault because he was a contractor, very skilled man, very intelligent man, but from the Caribbean, he was one of, I believe, 15, and money was scarce. So, only a selected few got to become educated and really pursue their educational talents. But from what I was told from him and his siblings, that he was really bright in school, but my father always had a very aggressive temper. He was just a different kind of guy, and it didn't make things any better that he was extremely strong. Like naturally, he was built, and he threw his strength around. He's a guy you come and put your hands on his shoulder, and depending on the mood that he was in, he turned around and he broke your mouth, punch you in the face, or whatever the case may be. So my dad, growing up, he was physically abusive, and sometimes he did some things which is how the hell do you do that to a child. But I would say that he was more so verbally abusive and psychologically abusive than he was physically. And later on in life, I think a lot of those memories replayed on him, and he never really forgave himself. And I could see that, though I forgave him. But move forward, you gotta let things go. It's like you're going up a hill, you already have a heavy load. Going up that hill, it doesn't, if you're in a position to offload anything, you just offload it, you put it down because it's not necessary. And two, I'm not sure what my dad's pain was. Hurt people. He lost his dad when he was young. So I'm not sure if that really had a traumatic impact on him. I'm not sure what happened. My father was a man of very few words. It wasn't always bad. Sometimes he got intoxicated and he promised us the world, that he's going to do this and he's going to do that. And I remember one he was promising, and I question. I said, Dad, you're always saying that you're going to do these things, but you never do anything. And my siblings, and I saw, tears came in his eyes, and my siblings, they turned and they're like, you never have faith in that. And for me, it was more or less like, listen, man, I'm tired of hearing you talk about things that you're not doing. I'd rather you just shut up. So coming forward a bit, the fact that I moved around so much really kept me away from a particular group of friends. And I'm not down on these guys because I tell people all the time, the black community lost its best talents in the streets. The guy who ended up America's Most Wanted, if he had $1, 50 cents was mine. And I didn't have to ask. He just gave me 50 cents. If he had 50 cents, he gave me a quarter. If he went to a store and bought himself a chips, he gave me half. That's just how we rolled. Group of guys that I hung around with. That's if one fight, we all fight. There was never any sense of selfishness. My friends and I, we just moved at another level. So I like to tell people, like, when I graduated 8th grade, I wasn't that. I never wanted to sell drugs. That was out of the question. So my friends, we used to hustle, buy the fake clothes on 28th Street. And we go walk around to the barbershops and sell them for premium dollars. Beyond that, I believe it was the 7th grade. My first job was packing bags at the supermarket. I needed money, so when I went to the supermarket and I saw them packing bags, I would never forget my first packer. The lady Simone. She turned around, she looked at me, and she's like, you want to pack for me? And I was like, yeah. I didn't know what I was doing, so I just looked at what everyone else was doing. So, I started, packing bags. That became my little hustle. Always was big into saving my money. And me, I'm a person who likes to figure things out, right? So on a Saturday morning, I knew there was no food in the house. So I would get up early, start packing bags at 8 or 9 o'clock, make, sufficient cash, buy, some groceries or whatever, take it back to the house, and then come back and finish my packing. I'm gonna try my best not to cry. And I was very giving. I'm not saying this because I'm so sick. My aunts, my grandmother, from the Caribbean will tell you that I was a good kid. I never really broke rules, but I didn't take anything from anyone. So if someone did something to me, I would go. I would not stop until justice was. I have a scar in my head because this kid decided to take a stone and bust my head. So the next day I waited for him at the beach and I repaid. And I was not satisfied until they understand why I didn't do anything to this dude, but he did that to me. So just to give you a little idea of my mindset, coming out of junior high school, my friends were all about money. And oftentimes in the streets, people get caught up with, violence. But the main thing that we were concerned about was, making some money. So yeah, moving forward, for the first time, my story begins in, sophomore year in high school. Right, I was 17. You will say, whoa, 17-year-old sophomore. In the Caribbean, I was living with my maternal grandparents. And then I went to live with my aunt. And her boyfriend at the time was abusing me. My father got wind of it and he said, yo, take him back to his grandmother. So they snatched me out of school mid-year, took me back to my village. So I had to wait till school had done. And then when I went back, I started the 2nd grade all over again. And then when I came to this country, they have a thing. A lot of Caribbean people will tell you this, that when I came here, they put you back a grade. They never put you in the grade. So I finished the 3rd grade. I should have went to 4th. They said, nah, he's going back to the 3rd grade, right? So I got it twice. Sophomore year in high school, for the first time, having gone through some crazy stuff before that prevented me from going to school early, living in some deplorable conditions, which I will not, more or less get into out of privacy and whatnot. I moved next door after, the lady saw that I didn't have anywhere to go. So we were staying in the basement and she told us that we had to get out by a certain date. So my father left with my younger brother. My sister got a place. My older brother had a place, and it was just him and I, there. So me, I was doing some construction work for the most part, and I just hung around. I saw the lady cooking food and whatnot, so I just started helping her. And, that transition, I started, selling food with her at one of these parties late at night, just, helping cleaning up or whatever the case may be. And then she'll give me $40 and I'll use that to buy whatever I needed. By the end of that, I was the last person in the basement. She told me that I could live there. People always ask me like, whatever happened between you and that lady? And I'm grateful for what she did. A part of me feels like it was a manipulation game in a sense where when there's a lot of work to be done, throwing parties, you got to clean the base, you got to do this, you got to do that. So, I was doing whatever, I was your son. But as soon as I wasn't feeling well, it became talks of, you're not my kid. And then my younger brother, father didn't have anywhere to put him, so he moved in and stuff like that. I'm super grateful, but, there's a catch-22 with that. So that was the first time in my life up to that point where I had, consistent meals outside of, my friends. Rewind, the friends that I hung around with, that's where I ate. Those are the people that protected me, and I would have done anything for those guys. And back then I didn't smile much because I didn't have much to smile for. I didn't have much to smile about. I used to walk around like I wish somebody would, but I always paid attention to my surroundings. Riding the bus, somebody will be talking to, giving advice to a kid or whatever. And I'll be eavesdropping on the conversation, like, taking those jewels because I didn't get them. I was always vigilant, trying to learn and stuff like that. So for the first time, I'm in a house somewhere to, sleep that was suitable and all this other stuff, food or whatever. The lady, she knew the kind of friends I had. And she purposely get into these long convos about where to go hang with my boys. She would hold me there for like an hour and just talk. And I appreciate that. If that wasn't there, and if I wasn't moving around so much, I have no idea what would have happened. I don't think I'll be here today. So that was the first time that I really had what I needed to do what I needed to do. I was never a dumb kid. I was always smart once I applied myself, passed my classes once I'm there. Because I work hard. Not the smartest, but I work hard. I would do whatever to improve. So I made honor roll that semester, and I said to myself that I would never not make honor roll. That was just my determination, and I accomplished that goal. Like I started excelling in school, but none of my teachers, they're like, man, this guy have really good grades and whatnot, but I never seen his parents. My father never stepped foot in my high school, never. And, people ask me like, where did I get this, where did I learn business? It was a program in high school called Virtual Enterprise. It's basically give high school kids the opportunity to run a virtual business. Junior year in high school, they put me in that class. When I walked in the class, my teacher walked out. He walked out, and he reminded me this later on. I walked in the class, he looked at me, and he just walked out. And I said, okay, cool, this guy doesn't know me. At that point, like, he's just looking at the serious face. He had no idea that I was like a really good student. I used to see him in the halls. I just never spoke to the guy. I never smiled. It just wasn't my thing. And so he finally came back, and I credit him with teaching me how to write, especially business, memos and stuff like that. So I would submit a paper and I'll come back red. And I'm like, I'm a very competitive guy. I don't ever want to leave anyone with the impression that I'm stupid. So long story short, I was determined to eliminate the red. And he pulled me once, after a couple of weeks, and he's like, yo, I've never seen a student excel this fast. So from there, he saw how hard I worked. And he came back and he said, yo, I gotta apologize to you. And I was like, for what? He was like, I misjudged you. He said, you remember when you walked in, I walked out. And he was like, I walked out, I went straight to the guidance counselor. And I said, man, why you keep putting these hoodlums in my class? And he was like, yo, to my surprise, you're one of the best students I ever had in terms of how you supplied yourself. At that point, I said, I'm gonna make something of myself. I didn't know what. I knew I was going to make something of myself. By the time my senior year in high school, I was not a CEO of the program, and this program I used to come to school dressed up, shirt, tie, and stuff like that. And, we had like business plan competitions. That's where I really learned business, and I understood, how to think as a businessman. I understood marketing, finance, and all these other things in business. So that's when I decided that I wanted to study business. That teacher from Virtual Enterprise, he really pushed for me, and he more or less, tried to get me, like I won the New York lottery Leadership of Tomorrow scholarship. I was published in the Flatbush Times, as, kind of like, look at what this kid and another friend of mine was doing, within the community. ability in terms of, how we were excelling. I started, actually, my writing got so well, I started writing for this magazine, Teen Speak newspapers. I think that was the time when my teacher was like, yo, you're like top of your class right now. Where's your parents, man? They should be proud of you, And that's when I broke down and I kind of told him, my situation. And he was like, I would have never guessed. I would say to anyone, like going through like that period in my life, like it's not easy. I'm recapping now, but the day to day is no joke. It takes a lot of mental fortitude to really stay focused when, you have so many things that's pulling against you, right? So by senior year in high school, got kicked out of the place we were staying with my father again. And, it was, I told my best friend at the time, well, my best to this day, right? That, I gotta move. And it looked like I'm gonna end up in Canarsie, which was like, far from the school, and he lived close to the school. So he said to me, he was like, yo, come live with us. I talked to my mom and see what's up. And I was like, nah, man, it's all good. He was like, nah, why would you go all the way to Canarsie? That my mom wouldn't have any problems with it. You know what I'm saying? Like I was working at the time. I was always in my hustle or whatever. They had some programs in the school where we were working, making money and stuff like that. So I didn't really need anyone to give me financial support because I was supporting myself. So he spoke to his mom, who's now like my mother, and he said, yeah. So I moved in with him and his, family, him, his two brothers, his mom, and we all just crashed in one big room, you know what I mean? And, to this day and forever, I've never received that much love from a family that was not my blood, you know what I'm saying? And that's why I always tell people that there's a family you're born into. And my biological family knew what was going on, but they had their own stuff, and, for whatever reason, I'm not here to judge it. They didn't really show that interest. I mean, some did, but it wasn't like a consistent type of thing. It was like a little sporadic, whatever the case may be. And it's not like they were keeping, my father was like telling them what was going on and whatnot. I think most times, my dad was lying to them, telling them like we're good when we wasn't. Started living with my best friend, his family, finished out, senior year. I remember reconnecting with a 7th grade teacher, Carlos Walton, and he used to do college tours, historically Black college tours. Went on a college tour, someone paid for my college tour. I don't remember who the guy is, but I've since paid for a few people's college tours because I pay things forward. I don't just take. I'm not a person. If I'm gonna take, I'm gonna give. Went on a college tour, got to Morgan State University campus, and that same voice that oftentimes told me when I was leaving said, "This is where you need to be." Went to Morgan State, ended up studying accounting. Once again, my father came on campus when I graduated. When I got there, I had my best friend's mom, who is now my mom, unpledged support. Okay. I was working as a dental assistant, had really bad lower back pain my first semester, and it showed in my grades. I had a 2.5. I cried that grade. Cried. And I was like, how the hell you say you're going to do all these things? And I often tell people have vision, right? Because everything I accomplished at Morgan State, my best friend and my other boy would tell you, I mapped it out before I got there. I said, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And everything I said I was going to do, I did it. Start my own organization, check. Work my way up to a full scholarship, check. Distinguish myself amongst my peers, check. Not be known for some damn womanizer, check. Because that was, when you're unsupervised as a teenager in Brooklyn, you're going to do some things, right? So, yeah, got to Morgan State, second semester, really learned how to be a student. Once I figured it out, started working work study where I could really contribute, to the bills. Summertime I worked, and I just started paying my own way from there. The head of the honors program, Don Brunson, he gave me an opportunity after I made Dean's List. I didn't realize it was Dean's List because my second semester I had a 3.4, but I had another C. And I cried again. I said, man, what the hell, man? What's going on here? Like, I got into the final and I froze up, just totally froze up and totally disappointed. So then the next semester I say, yo, this semester I'm going to kill it, So sitting outside of his office, he calls me and he was like, "What did you do last semester?" I'm looking at him like a 3.4. And he's like, "What? Dean's list? You're lying. You didn't make no 3.4." And I'm like, actually, I did. And he's like, let me check. He pulls it. He was like, "Wow, a 3.4." He looks at my balance and he goes, 2,500. I'm going to cover your balance. And I'm like, "You're going to do what?" So then I get in my hustler spirit. I'm like, "Okay." And then he said, "If you do it again, I'm going to cover you. I'm going to give you 2,500 this semester." So I said, "What if I do higher than that?" He said, if you do a 3.4, I give you $5,000. And I said, "What if I do better than that?" He said, "If you do above a 3.6, I'll pay your entire tuition and fees." That was enough for me, right? And I did a 3.75 that semester. Came back and I said, "Dude, honor your word," and he honored his word. And the long and short of it, from that point forward, I had a 3.6, 3.6, 3.8, 3.8, and I think my last semester I had a 3.2. That was the lowest GPA that I had at Morgan State since my first semester. And I was just basically determined to make something of myself. And everything made sense when I received my offer from Ernst & Young in October 2005, right? I received my offer. I went back to my room and I cried and I just kneeled and I said, "Wow, this is what all of this was for." So I would tell anyone, in life, you're going to go through stuff. That's just a part of life. I can sit here and I can say that, be mad at someone for things that I went through or whatever they did to me or whatever. I'm not mad at anyone. I think that was the best thing that ever happened to me personally. A lot of these things I didn't talk about. I never really got into detail with most people, but I'm not ashamed of it anymore. I realized that I was most vulnerable. I was a child. I was not supposed to take care of myself. Your parents are supposed to take care of you, but I never received that. To give myself an edge, I just started reading deep things. And I just spiraled into, I got deeper and deeper. So the regular classwork was nothing because I was challenging myself on other levels. And when I got into combos with people about things, and they're just like, "Yo, that dude is next level." You know what I mean? So I would tell them, keep pushing. You can't give up, man. 50 Cent said, "Get rich or die trying." I say, accomplish it or die trying. There is absolutely nothing. I tell anyone I'm unbreakable. You cannot break me. I go through things. Still, you can't break me. You cannot stop me. There's only one of me in this creation. And if you know any better, there's only one of you. And you should love you. You should discover you. At this point in my life, I don't want for anything. My dream in life was, and this is a fact, my dream in life was to have my own place with a refrigerator that had food in it, a bedroom with beds I could sleep on, a living room with a working television, and lights. How many times, one time, me and my siblings was in a damn apartment for months without lights, right? Dark, doing our homework in the hallways and stuff like that. And gas, we had to cook some food. I can tell you that's the least of my concerns. Money, is not, I'm not rich, but money is really not something I'm concerned about at this point in my life. Most people will say that, the dream is to fall upon a pile of cash. As I grew, I realized that was not my dream. My dream was not about economic success. It was not about climbing the socioeconomic ladder. Because for me, I just didn't see any worth in that. Personally, my dream was always spiritual development. That has always been my goal. Some people say coming out of Ernst & Young with some of my peers, they're doing very well right now. Very wealthy, guys, partners and all kinds of stuff at these firms. But I was never interested in that. Yes, I was smart. Yes, I'm driven. Yes, throughout my career, for the most part, I've received exceptional reviews. But I've never been totally focused on money. My focus to this day and forward would always be spiritual development. I would tell anyone, seek the thing that only you can get. Only you can find that. Look internal, know yourself, keep pushing and don't stop. And when you see those kids outside, their pants a little bit below their butt, they walk in looking all tough and all that stuff. It's usually a real crazy story behind that. So not everyone have the patience that I have. I just decided that I'm not going to do certain things under no circumstance, and I leaned on my own intelligence. I went for months without a dollar in my pocket. I can do without. I will walk 3 miles because I don't have $1 in my pocket. And I'm okay with taking my time to get to where I need to go, doing things the right way, because I have to feel honorable within myself that I did the right thing for me. People ask me all the time, what really pushed me to keep going? So now I might cry. So my sister will always tell me, and other people will always recount dreams that they had of my mom, and she'll be crying. So I was just determined to make her smile. I need her to smile, and I'm going to make you smile. And that's what really pushed me, because my mom was the closest thing to me. That's my queen. The memories of her doing things to make her proud is what really, kept me on my path. Two, when you're going through heavy things like that, you're gonna need moments to release. For me, there was always times when I had to lock myself away and cry, like literally. Whether in the shower, I would lock myself in the room, and even, there are times when I just feel like crying, and I would cry. Some people say real men don't cry. That is BS. You hear what I'm saying? Crying is the most amazing thing in the world, because when I lock that door, when I lock myself away, or if I'm in the shower, I don't come out until I'm feeling better. I will cry and cry and cry, and you cry me a river, I will cry a river until I felt better. You got to get that stuff out. If I didn't, put on my boots, strap them up, and really go for it, nothing would have happened. And I recount my determination. I just have a different kind of determination when I really set myself on something. I recount having a convo with someone, and I told this person exactly what I was going to do. I said I'm gonna go to college, get a great job, and I'm not going to be in poverty. I'm going to fix all of this. And person looked at me and they said, well, one day you're going to wake up and realize that life is not that easy. And I looked at him, I just said to myself, well, I'm going to show you. And there you have it. Understand that success is not always measured, by dollars and cents. The most important thing to me is, my spiritual development. I came upon yoga, and it has changed my life. When you talk about introspective, when I say yoga, I'm talking about that which is documented by Patanjali in the Yoga Sutras, being an 8-limb process. Currently in the West, people see yoga as asanas, which is the 3rd limb of yoga. Asanas is just the bodily postures, right? If you're not practicing all 8 limbs, then you're not doing yoga. Yes, most people, would be surprised to know that I am initiated into yoga as a spiritual system. This is not New Age. This is a very ancient spiritual system. And being practicing twice daily on most days for the last over 3 years now, I have seen, in terms of my spiritual development, my overall awareness has just skyrocketed. I would tell you, if you want to hear more from me, I have a YouTube channel. Just you can look for Kenroy Ellis Yogi Satya Duta. The literal translation of that name is True Messenger.
4 quick things. First of all, I'd like to say thank you so much if you stayed to the end. Second, go ahead and take a moment and like this video. And third, if you'd like to see more content that you think you'd enjoy, why don't you go ahead and hit that red button and subscribe. And fourth, and most important, if you have your own exceptional story to tell, why don't you go ahead and contact me at admin@exceptionalstorytime.com. Thank you so much. Enjoy your day.